appreciate everyone being here. I'm down in the back. I don't know what happened. I think wrestling my little baby alligator, our new grandson. Not really sure. Woke up major clamping every about 2 minutes. So I'm on a couple muscle relaxers. And as most of my friends know, I've never taken anything. So this could get interesting today. You may have really get some entertainment out of all this. I told Todd, I said, if I go down, just roll me off the stage. And Todd said, he didn't miss a beat. He's like, I'm going to go look for that refrigerator dolly that's on that back dock, and I'm going to bring it up here by the stage and belt you in. So we got it covered. I think we're all covered. I'm going to try and work the way through it. I appreciate everyone being here. Awesome turnout, awesome crowd. I'm going to kind of set the lay of the land for us as we move forward. When I set the agenda for this year, I wanted to really, there were three things I was interested in, or three main themes. So tomorrow is going to be kind of all about business, building the brand. And I thought, who's built a heck of a brand in the last several years was Barstool Sports. So we were able to get the CEO, Erica Baden, to come in, kind of tell us she was one that kind of was there when they really blew it up. So we're going to talk business tomorrow, how to build our ag businesses. We're going to have Carter and the crew on stage talking about where we think ag's headed, so we can kind of have the right aim and direction. So those will all happen tomorrow. Today's kind of going to be more of a, I kind of call it like an investor day. We're going to kind of see what the markets are going to do, corn, beans, wheat, talk a lot of that, talk cattle, see if we can't try to do better on our marketing, and talk about stocks and becoming better investors overall, building generational wealth and things of that nature. So our first keynote speaker is going to be Zach Cass. Zach was probably one of the world's top leading, he currently is one of the top leaders in the AI for thought. He was at OpenAI, one of the first few hires, and kind of brought on for ChatGPT to roll it out. So I think it's interesting that since 1995, we've seen 15 turns in Moore's Law. And, I can remember back in 95 like it was nothing. And so computer power is 32,000 times faster than it was in 95. And they're saying AI is even going to be quicker changing than that and quicker turns. So, we've got to be prepared for all this quick and rapid change and how it's going to play out. There's a lot of questions in the air, and I have them as well. We'll ask these panelists, what the heck's going to happen with jobs? I've learned this the last few years. We definitely have to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. In my opinion, there's no question. We're currently, and I didn't know this, about 86% of all of our jobs right now are in the service sector. That's kind of crazy if you think about it, 86%. So we're trying to get more jobs into manufacturing just because it pays a little higher amount and because we think it's more stable, but also because we think the robots are coming, correct? We've all heard it. We've all seen it. We spent some time in different think tank groups. There's been a bunch of things going around. And why is manufacturing important? How did we win World War II? Manufacturing. So, we sit here and we got to figure out how we're going to get this manufacturing back, because when this starts to play out, there's going to be some problems. Who can manufacture the most robots the fastest is probably going to win. On top of that, there's the issue of energy. So how's everything going to play out with energy? We'll get into those debates and discussions up here, probably in the Future of Ag panel tomorrow. How are we going to find the energy to power all the AI? I put on there an interesting side note that I know Carter will get into. The report from the government that came out not that long ago, it said 75% of our younger adults, 18 to 24, are either too fat, got some other health problems, or have some mental health issues that would keep them from being drafted. Can you believe that? I mean, 75%. That's a pretty crazy number. So, I think the race is on for energy. I'm not sure the play in Venezuela. Obviously, there's energy at stake there. Greenland, obviously energy at stake. So we see what's happening. The race is on for the energy. We need the manufacturing back. And I think, we'll hear and learn more about that when Zach comes up here later today. Is there an AI bubble brewing? I say yes, there is a bubble brewing. I still think we're 3 or 4 years from it. This quote by Derek Thomas was a great quote, I thought. The railroads were a bubble, but they transformed America. Electricity was a bubble, it transformed America. Air travel was a bubble, and it transformed America, and so was the broadband build-out. So I suspect as we move forward, AI will probably be overbuilt, and there will be some type of bubble implication. Like I said, I don't think we're there yet. But those are all the interesting dynamics. You can screenshot it. Any of this, you guys are more than welcome to screenshot and share. This was from Goldman. This just kind of shows you on the left was 1999. You can look at the P's on some of those leading tech companies. And on the right's the current P's, basically. As you can see, Tesla, you take Tesla out, and we're well below. We're trading 31 times, but you take Tesla out, we're probably even less than that. So we're not really into that dot-com-ish bubble era. I traded through that. And what a run it was, and that's what I told Todd. I'm probably arguing that we're more mid-cycle, say 95. And I think there's probably 3 or 4 years of a crazy run left that you probably don't want to miss. And we can get into all of that as we move forward into some of our panels, and I'll get deeper into a lot of that. The second session today, after lunch, we're talking generational wealth building. Myself, Bob Nimitz, Jeff Presley, John Santee, Peter Maluk. Maluk's probably one of the richest. I think he's one of the richest guys in Kansas City. He owns the Royals, part of the Royals. He's my age, started from nothing, delivering papers, had a paper route, did some DJing, and then just kind of turned it on later. And I know he's in the Bloomberg Billionaire Index and a lot of that. But he's built one heck of a business. And Nimitz and I, Bob, and a couple other farmers, guys that own farm ground, we got together and we were thinking, and we said, farming and agriculture is really cyclical. So, a couple of years, let's say 10-year span, out of a 10-year span, a couple of years, we're going to hit a couple of good licks probably. A couple of years, we're going to probably have some losers. And then about 6 of those years, we're going to bob up and down, up and down. Maybe you have a couple, maybe a little win, maybe a little loser. So Bob and I concluded that the way to stay in agriculture and the way to grow, you've got to be really good on your bad years of limiting your losses. And more importantly, even maybe than that, is how you invest on those good years. When you have that boom of money, if you're investing in depreciating assets like jet skis and boats, you got a problem probably. And you probably are going to gripe and complain because good investors are coming in and buying up more ground and raising rents. So what's the answer? You got to become a good investor. So we've learned that, and we know that, and that's why Bob said we really need to start focusing more on that. And I think you look around this room at the attendance, and I think, that really tells its tale. We've done pretty well through the years on the investing side. Something else I'm focusing more on with my own businesses, as Michelle and I get older, check this out. This one really hit me. I was at a conference thing this year and talking to some people. Look at this when we peak. But think about our ag businesses. Look around this room. Look at all of us old folks that are in control of the farms. We've got to get the younger kids more responsibility earlier. Peak performance mentally even peaks around 40, 45. I think us older folks can offer a lot of wisdom. We know that we can provide wisdom, but we really, really got to figure a way to get the younger kids moved up the ranks quicker. I thought it was interesting, air traffic controllers, look it up, mandatory retirement at 56. Too many mistakes. I know my daughter at the big architect firm she was at in New York, mandatory retirement for even upper level, 60. I know there's some law firms in here that I think it's close to 60. So, but when I look at the farm and the ag, it's nowhere close to that. And there's nothing, what I'm saying is I'm not sad or I'm not disappointed. It's just, I got to put more faith and more trust in my kids. And we got to be in more of an advisory role and let them do the marketing. The only way they're going to learn is by failing. And they got to do the investing because that's what's going to carry them forward. So the more opportunities you can give them to fail while you're still here and you can kind of pick them up and dust them off, I think the better we all are. So it's just really important to think about that, to get these younger kids involved, especially as quick as change is coming on. I mean, change is just coming on so fast. The other thing we got to ask ourselves as investors, what's going to happen here? Let's a view from 30,000 feet. Is capitalism going to survive? I don't know. I mean, you saw this vote in New York. I know everyone saw it, and the youth carried the vote. And there's a lot of talk on Wall Street and a lot of talk on our circles in the hedge funds group. You know, what's going to happen here? Have things gotten out of reach for people? And when they get out of reach, people lose hope and lose faith, and then they just give up on the system and they vote a different way. And what I mean by that is these kids are spending their money differently than I did, my wife and I. I've told you guys before, our first house was, I think, $40-some thousand. And, you know, we thought it was the best thing in the world. We might not have bought that house nowadays if we were 22, I think, 23. My wife was 21 when we got married. So we were 22, 23 years old when we bought the house, but that house certainly wasn't Instagram worthy, I promise. We would not have probably posted that house. You know, we might have posted a couple of wine glasses clinking or whatever the kids do nowadays, you know, all that jazz. But that's interesting. And so we started to do more deep dive. Again, you can snapshot it and study it. I'm of the belief they have it wrong. Since 1963, the U.S. poverty line has been calculated as 3 times the cost of minimum food diet, adjusted for inflation. And there's a lot of argument in our circles that number is massively wrong. And that we think it takes a family of 4 a minimum of about $150,000 to live. And if you look at these numbers, you tell me. I got housing on here at just under $2,000 a month. And that includes rent, utilities, insurance. You got childcare at about $8 an hour for 2 kids. You've got food at $10 a day. $10 a day on food. And you guys know, my wife and I go to Sonic or go to Casey's. Hell, you can't buy pizza and chicken poppers at Casey's for, you know, you're dropping some coin. I used to go in there and let the team buy whatever they wanted at Quick Trip or Casey's. Hell, you got to set some limits now, it seems like, because things are nuts. So, transportation, you can see, look at healthcare, and these things aren't changing. These aren't going down. And that right there requires about $136,500. There's a lot of talk about the cost of a participation ticket. Back when I was a kid, a participation ticket meant you had to have a phone line at home so the guy hiring you could call and say, hey, you're hired and come on out. Now you need a cell phone, you need internet access, and you probably need a few things. So your participation ticket's $600 to $800. So you can see why these kids they don't like the system. And when you talk about the American dream, this is minimal here. This is the minimum. Retirement, you need about $1.6 million to kick yourself about $64,000 for 20 years. Owning a home will typically cost most Americans about $950,000, mortgage, rent, utilities. Owning a few new cars, $900,000. Raising 2 children, $876,000. That's way cheap, I think. That didn't happen at my house. Healthcare, look at the expenses. But if you add them all up, a normal family needs over $5 million made over the course of their lifetime. And that's to live without a lot of things in the pipe. So currently, the average person with a bachelor's degree is making about $2.8 million. So as you can see, the numbers aren't jiving. So when you see kids voting the other way, I mean, we gotta understand this a little bit better. Something's got to happen. Here, look at this. The percentage of U.S. households with total income greater than $150,000. Yeah, it's increased. Hell, you got to make $150,000 as a family almost to stay afloat. But look at that. I mean, we got almost 65, 70% of the country that's falling below that line. So I'm telling you, it's going to be tricky to not vote for some type of socialism or some type of something of that sort. And it scares the hell out of me. And, and I know there's difference of opinions in the room, and that's fine. And we can all agree to disagree. But, it definitely scares me. And what's the government going to do about it? We're 37 trillion, 38 trillion in debt. You added $2 trillion since July. This is October outlays, all right? Just scroll on down and look at net interest for the month. $91 billion in net interest. So you got Medicare, Social Security, National Defense. You're not cutting anywhere there. You're not really cutting anywhere. You got health, income security, you got veterans benefits. Look at it. I mean, I think that's what happened when, when Trump ran Doge Play and they ran the Doge Play. I don't know if there's that many places to cut without really taking some meat off the bone for a lot of folks. And I don't know how that's going to shake out. It's going to be interesting. I want to hear the panel's thought on that. And I don't think things are coming down. Property taxes, they're not coming down. I mean, we're getting smoked. Here in Jackson County or here in Kansas City, Missouri, I mean, our taxes are through the roof on property taxes. My residence property tax went up to, I think Michelle had lawyers fighting it, but it went to almost $60,000 on my residence. Our other buildings and our properties we own around town, I had some shoot from, I'm not lying to you, some of them shot from it was about $5,000 or $6,000 to about $40,000 in the last 5 years. And I've been at the city, I've been everywhere, and I've been with the attorneys and the government. But here's a play I didn't see. And this is what each city's telling us on the properties we own in various cities. Check this out. So when all this happened, like with the George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter and all the marches and everything else, the cities didn't quite pencil into their budget that every time the police arrest someone, they get sued. And they get sued and sued again and sued again in the last 5 years. And they don't have the money in the budget. It's just eating up the budget alive. And I've talked to some politicians and they said, I mean, I don't know what the answer is except to keep raising property taxes or keep raising taxes. And that's the environment we're in now. And it's crazy. These silly phones and everyone filming it's just nuts. I'm not condoning police brutality, but I do support our police. And it's interesting to see the fallout from some of this. So it isn't going to go down. The taxes, in my opinion, are going to continue to escalate. Healthcare cost isn't coming down either. And I was in a couple of interesting meetings. And if you look at that, more Americans turn 65 in 2025 than any preceding year. It's not going to change. But I remember back to my gram. You guys in the report, I talked about my grandma. She taught me a lot. And here was my gram. She's on the left. My gram never went to the hospital or the doctors. My gram, we'd tape it up at home with duct tape if we had to. My grandpa had scars on him. I see, like, Pops, what's that from? Oh, we just laid it over and duct taped it up and away we went, right? My grandpa's brother was the first case here in Kansas City, died of strep. My grandpa came over on a boat from Germany, and his brother died of strep throat. They scraped it, came to his house, let his brother swallow it, died the next morning. So my grandpa would always say, see that place over there? Anytime we pass a hospital, stay out of there. That's where people die. Don't go there. That's where people go to die. So we're going to no doctors at our house. But I look at these new grandmas, right? These are the new grandmas on the right. Ooh, looky there, the new grandmas. Botoxed up. Hey, new grandmas down at the villages. That's my dad. My dad's down. He was down there. My dad passed away last year, but down at the village. I'm just saying, not like the old grandmas. Look at the demographics. These grandmas are going to the doctor. These grandmas are going to hospitals, and they're going to get everything done. So healthcare costs ain't going down. There's no way healthcare costs are going down. More people are doing too much more with medical type of things. So these expenses aren't going anywhere. So we got to get better at investing is all there is to it. We got to get better at making some money. My accountants always used to tell me that. I'd go in and blow the accountants up. Or I wouldn't blow them, but I'd be yelling pretty good and arguing. And they say, you need to go focus on making more money and not worry about all these taxes. We got that taken care of. So that's kind of the motto. You got to worry about making more money, not worry so much on the savings on the cost, because they're not coming down. So what I wanted everyone to see is kind of that on the column on the right. How often does the stock market decline? And take pictures. I see some folks take pictures of that and put it on your wall, and I have it on my wall at my house because the market drops 10% almost every year. Be patient. Be patient. Pick your stocks, look for good entry points, but be patient. You're going to get these swings. And the more volatile, say the president is, or the more extreme the headlines, the more volatility we're going to have. So I think you got to, kind of settle in a little bit. It's a long ride. And what I kick myself the most for is all the big wins I could have had, but I took them off way too early. I mean, I can tell you guys story after story. I was in Amazon off the IPO. Took it off with like a baby gain And Michelle and I always look back. It would have been it was up in the billions at this point. Michelle and I always look back at it and laugh. And the best lesson I ever heard anyone tell me is just like, don't go in the garden and pick all the flowers. Pick the weeds. That means get rid of the losers. Kick the losers and let the winners settle in and let the winners kind of multiply over time. And I just wanted to provide that for everyone. But where were the big negative years? The big negative years, and this is another one, take a picture of, since 1929, you've only had really 13 sizable downstrokes in the market. I mean, it has broken 20% at times, but it came back that year. So if you look, 1930, 31, and 37 pretty much echoes of the Great Depression. 40 and 41 were negative years, but that's when World War II was brewing. We had a lot of problems in Europe. Things were shaking out. Market was nervous and scared. 1957 was kind of our first real recession took place. 1966, you had the CPI inflation popped. The Fed got a little goosey, hiked rates pretty aggressively, had some issues. Market got a little nervous. Still only down 12%. 1973, you had the OPEC oil embargo, 73 and 74. Again, some sizable downstrokes. 01 was the dot-com fallout from the dot-com bubble. You had 2002, the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And then you had 2008, the Great Recession. And 2022 was when the market kind of panicked a little on the Fed rate hiking. That's the list. That's it. 13. Those are them. So, and these are some pretty dire times. I suspect, like I said, I don't think we're in a bubble. I don't think we're at a peak at this point. I think green light, go. I think you got people that are pro stock in the office, stock market. Trump's going to put pressure on lowering rates. I feel like the world money managers believe the world's a little safer place after what's happened in the Middle East and what's happened now, and they've seen what's happened in Venezuela. Carter wrote an interesting piece on the invasion. I'm going to have him talk about when he's up here tomorrow. But like I said, I think this is an opportunity to make some money here in the next few years if we really look at some things and hone in a little bit. So I think there's some good times ahead. If you look at the red line is just where we're at on a 3-year bull market. And as you can see, there's a ton of room left to run. And bull markets don't die of old age. Remember, where I always get messed up in stock trading is I think of it like I'm trading corn, beans, and wheat. You can't do that. Corn, beans, and wheat, always, it's this number. Oh my gosh, it's gone to a real extreme high. You know what's going to happen. Everybody's going to race out and plant, and that thing's going to break. I mean, you know what's going to happen. We trade, and that. So you start to think that's going to happen in the stock market. It's a rigged game. The stock market's rigged to the upside, period. End of story. So you can't have that mentality. You got to think a little differently. It isn't just because it's ran up a bunch, it's got to go back down. It doesn't have to. You can have big extended runs. Markets don't crash when they're overbought. They crash when they're already oversold. That's a great one to know, too, and a great one to understand for those of you that have traded a long time. You got to have some sell pressure in play, and then the bottom drops out, the floor drops out, and then it really breaks. That's just not the case right now. You got a lot of people with a lot of money selling sidelines looking to buy breaks for the most part. This is last year's slide we put up. People said they appreciated just seeing what my positions were last year. I got hit pretty good on two right there. I'll point out Shake Shack and Portillo's, the two restaurant stocks. Restaurant stocks got kind of clobbered. You saw what happened to Chipotle and the rest of the whole batch. Consumer discretionary kind of got pounded. The big winner, gold, silver, copper, silver and gold, So Andy's still bullish. He's still buying. I've been selling a little bit of physical silver. We'll get into that in a little bit. Looking forward to next year, we believe the opposite of AI is community. So businesses have to have a better building of community. I've listened to a lot of people talk as of late, big higher up hedge fund guys, and the word is people don't buy a brand anymore. People don't buy a name brand. They buy community. They buy things like in community that you see on social media. They buy wanting to be a part of something. And so you got to make your businesses more where people can be a part of something. Look around this room. When people feel they're a part of something is what brings people here, and I love it. I mean, I look at all of you folks as part of our family and part of our investing family and business building. You know, we're trying to build businesses and in rural America and in agriculture, and that's what we're all part of here. And I think you got to really dial that in as a business owner moving forward. Is how, and I think things are going to move faster. The trends are going to be faster because of this, right? Social media. They can make you or break you, and they're on to the next thing, and on to the next thing, and whatever's hot, and then the next thing that's hot. And I think you kind of got to play into that a little bit. Here's our other thought on investing when you're thinking about things. The cost of content creation is coming down dramatically. I mean, it's going to come down to nothing. So, I mean, you're going to be able to create content. Anybody will be able to do it. A dummy like myself can create content. And, you know, everybody's going to become a distributor via social media. And you already see the marketing companies trying to partner with all the influencers. Taste is going to really matter. Brands are going to become extremely important on the way you build the community and in the way you can make that a community. I've seen that happen with a couple of groups in the room I know of. I've seen it happen with Organics is building a community. I've seen Maristem build a community. I was out at their annual event. I mean, what a community. I mean, what a group of people that come together. And you see a lot of them around here at the event. And I think it's awesome. And that's why they're seeing some success, where I've seen some other ag startups never could quite get that figured out. And, you know, I lost quite a bit of money on some of those. So, you know, I think really your CEOs and your board need to think a lot about that. And you're going to have to be really specific. You got to create common groups where people can align and find camaraderie and commonality. Here's my, now look, I've changed this already. Move Netflix to the back of that list. I've cut my Netflix position in half since on January 5th. Only reason is because Reed Hastings came out and sold about $200 million worth of his shares in probably the last 90 days. And he came out again on January 5th and sold about 40 million and another 40 million. And he was the co-founder of Netflix. That kind of spooks me a little bit. And there's some things happening on ChatGTP, Discord, some of the others, where they're running some programming now where they can find all the shows you want to see out there for free. And people are coming up with what prompts to put in, and the computer's kicking back exactly what you want to see for free. And so it could be interesting how some of that plays out. But we like Google, Meta. LYV is Live Nation. That's who basically controls all the ticket sales. You guys know the whole deal. And TKO is probably one of my favorites. TKO is who owns WWE. They own UFC. They own PBR, Professional Bull Riders, and they're that play. It's Dana White. You know, Dana White is partners in it. But, you know, how big a draw are they going to get when it's the U.S. versus China and the robot, you know, cage fighting and the robot war? I mean, you're going to have everybody in the world tuning in to watch stuff like that. So, you know, you've got to kind of think. We like Spotify, too. Spot's the last one. But I think those plays, just because the content creation price is going to come down so much, so whoever has that toll booth set up, and those toll booths are going to pay some big dividends. So just think of that as you play things forward, who's going to be able to control that content in your specific line, you know, in your specific area. Here's our current, here's my current positions. I'll put the percentage up there. Like I said, that Netflix position is now over at the bottom probably. I recently started a position in Carrier Global. Carrier Global is just HVAC company, the big one. Comfort Systems had a hell of a year last year. They were up like 120%. Carrier kind of got ding-dong. They got hit pretty hard. Their stock went from about 80-some, traded up to about 80-some, back down to about 50-some. Their CEO stepped in and bought over $1 million, I think about $1 million worth of those shares in the last couple of weeks, around 50, 53-ish area. I don't know. I just think heating, cooling, ventilation is going to be big on these data center build-outs and how that plays up. I thought Carrier got a little beat up. And you can see, so when I'm talking in my report that I'm looking to buy big U.S. tech on the break, it's mostly that first column there. Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Google, Palo Alto Networks, CrowdStrike, Palantir, Honeywell. And so you can see the list. And you know, the one I did add this year is that Ron B. That's Ron Barron's principal. First principal ETF. The reason is I liquidated my Tesla shares. And you guys know I've been in Tesla. We've been in that a long, long time. We liquidated Tesla shares. Ron Barron's a huge investor in Tesla, so that covers my Tesla position. And I liked the management fee is a little bit higher than I would normally pay. But I think there's some play in SpaceX IPO in that as well, in that Ron Barron play. Because Barron has a ton of private equity in that. And I believe if you do your research, there is a way to play SpaceX through that, through Barron and his son have a company that they manage money. And they're putting some of that SpaceX type of play in play in some of these. Gold and silver, we stayed the same. As you see, Bitcoin is kind of split between that and MicroStrategy, because you can own MicroStrategy right now a little bit cheaper than what Bitcoin prices are, and MicroStrategy with the amount of Bitcoin they have makes a little sense. That S&P 500, two S&P 500 ETFs, those are the lowest cost S&P 500 ETFs that we hold. I like both of those. Just diversify. There's no diversification. I'm kind of a nut on if all hell breaks loose and you couldn't exit, I just split them up a little bit. So I'm in two different ETFs in case something happened to one. You never know. You never know. So, yeah, those are those. You can take a picture of this. We get this data. I get it every week. I send it to Jordan, and we circulate about our decisions. If you look at the first column is just the weighting in the S&P. But if you look at the present value column, the current price. Let's just go to the current price and look down to Tesla. It said $391. It's higher than that right now. But the future value, we got $374 of future value is what's cooked into Tesla right now as we sit. And only $1,650 of present value. That's why I had to kick it. I mean, I got it. They're going to produce robots now. Before it was the tech. And, Musk is a genius at this. And people want to own his stock because of him. But as you can see, current price versus present value tells you your future value. And so I think there's still a lot of room higher for some of the names in green. It's not that I dislike Apple or Amazon. I own Amazon and Broadcom. So I'm just showing you that the amount and how you can calculate it and, use that. As far as gold, silver, we can talk that. I'm not looking for the gold rally to end anytime soon. Like I said, central bank, it's not really an inflation play. It's been a central banks buying, led mostly by China, just trying to diversify their reserves away from the U.S. dollar. So we see a lot of gold buying almost on every dip. So I'm not sure that we're going to see that change much. As you know, I have been selling physical silver. I've sold it 3 times. First time was around 54, some 55-ish. Next time was about 64, 5-ish. Next time, 74, 75-ish. Each time. Each time I've gone in to sell, bid offer's gotten wider on me as the price went higher. Makes me nervous. I worry if silver goes to $150, what's the bid offer going to be? I don't know. That's local here now, so maybe the New York boys downstairs giving a little better prices. Todd said they were. But each time I've gone in, I've probably taken in 1,000 to 2,000. I've taken in anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 ounces each time. Silver Eagles, best I could get around here anywhere is $3 under. And there are 4 or 5 people in line right next to me, and they're paying 3 or 4 over. I want to meet them out in the parking lot and just trade with them, but I don't think the dealers like that too well. But that's the best I could get. So, I'm just a little worried if we go way out there, some of the buyers may get a little nervous in your area. So just make sure you remember that time wheat went nuts and went crazy. What was that? 08, 09. Remember, in hell, there were a lot of people went out of business, and you couldn't deliver. They were done. So I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to be a big buyer of the physical just because I've been trapped in the silver market a few different times. So I'm unloading it some now. I still have probably, Michelle, probably half of what I owned left. We just accumulated it through the years. But, yeah, so, pay attention. I think the guys downstairs have some good things. We're buying some older gold pieces and some older Western silver pieces I have been buying. But not for the most part, trying to liquidate some into the big rally. I think I've averaged now cash sales at about 65. So I guess could have waited. We were at 80 yesterday, so I left some meat on the bone, and may continue to go higher. So Andy's bullish. He's buying right now. He's buying physical gold and physical silver, just to let everyone know, and he's doing it at a discount. Buying some at a discount from people that are wanting to sell, and he thought that was a good time to be buying. So, each to their own. As far as Bitcoin goes, Ron Barron put out, he spelled it out simplest way. Money loses about 4 to 5% of its value every year from inflation. But the economy grows about 2%. That's roughly 7% erosion, which means prices double about every decade. Think of that. Think back on that. I told you my first house is about 40 grand. If you do the math and get out there, that's weird. Prices double about every decade, I guess. And I guess that's why as we're older, hell, they've doubled on us so many times, we're like, what the heck's happened here? But I guess maybe that's the play, And so that's why Bitcoin's done well. I'm not as bullish on Bitcoin as I was. Remember, we've been in this since, sub 500 bucks. We were in at like 300 and some bucks. Bitcoin, there's a lot of people licking their wounds after the drop. I think you've also got a lot more of this type of money going into the prediction markets, the poly markets, the sports gambling, and you also got money flowing to gold and silver. So I'm not looking for anything massive out of Bitcoin this next year. In fact, if it dropped to 30, 40 grand, I might buy a little more, but it better drop to 30 or 40. I'm not a buyer probably right here. I'm just holding our position. But like I said, again, we've been in it a long time, so I'd be a little hesitant here. Art and collectibles. I know you guys are going to laugh. How many years, I know at least the last 5-6 years, you guys have come. I told you all to go buy Pokemon cards. You didn't listen to me. Some of you. Anyway, I've been on a massive Pokemon card buying spree the last 5 years. My wife thinks I've lost my mind. Jordan does too. Jordan wanted me to come out like one of those Logan Paul or whatever, wearing his blinged out Charizard, but it didn't happen. But that's for real. That sale went down $500,000 on that Charizard card right there. I do happen to own a 10 Charizard, by the way. And the whole collectible gig, I'm just telling everyone, I'm probably a seller of collectible cars with both hands. I'm just telling you. Why am I a seller of collector cars? Who the hell? My kid doesn't care about a car. Cars aren't cool to my kid. My kid Ubers everywhere. He doesn't show up in a cool car. My wife and I, it was cool to show up in a cool car, right? Hell, these kids don't care about what they show up in. They're all showing up in a little Hyundai whatever, driven by whoever. They're all driving Ubers. There ain't no way rolling in big time in it. They're all in Ubers. They don't care. I tell Jordan, I'm like, hey, the only car Jordan wanted was damn General Lee. Jordan's like, Dad, I'd really like to bid on this General Lee. I'm like, yeah, well, we're not doing that. So it's tough. I'm telling you. And look at some of those Corvette prices. They've come down, some of the old ones, and you're seeing it. So all I'm saying is, yes, I think collector cars will stay strong as the 50-year-olds move to 70, but you better be out before they get there. Because when those 50-year-olds now move to 70 and they're liquidating those estates, or those people, and when I'm dying off, my kids ain't keeping those cars, they're getting rid of them. And there ain't gonna be a demand. So what you gotta figure out, if you're going into collectible and art market, you better figure out what the 30-year-olds right now, what they're gonna want when they're 50, and they got some disposable income. That's the key. Figure out what the people are gonna want who are 30 now when they turn 50. And I remember all them little kids running around playing with them Pokemon cards. I thought it was nuts. I thought they were out of their minds. We collected baseball cards, all that jazz. So I shifted everything over and I went nuts into Pokemon cards. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. And the other thing I tell my lawyer, Jay, and some other buddies that collect, hey, this Charizard can't go out and do anything real stupid. He ain't gonna go out and get all politically crazy, this animated cartoon. He ain't gonna pull a Ty Cobb, or he's not gonna piss off half the world because he said something wrong. So I'm just saying, think about the things that our kids wanted and liked. And that's what maybe you look at to invest if you're in the collectible space, or the collectible side of things. I'm gonna wrap up, and I'm gonna bring up a friend I met this summer. Listen to this, Todd booked me to speak. And you guys know I don't speak anywhere anymore. I get nervous when I speak. I hate speaking, I just don't do it. Well, Todd said, hey, you owe these people a favor. They're having their 20-year, I think the 20-year reunion, 25-year, for the ethanol plant out in East Kansas. I go out, it's on a Saturday. I didn't even know it. Todd books it Saturday. I'm mad, I'm going out there, I'm grouchy. I show up, and the guy says, hey, you want to, do you care if we use a bit of your time? Because I got a friend who started a charity, her husband passed away. And I'm like, shit, she can use all my time. You can use all the time you want. And she came up and spoke after me. My wife was crying. She had me teary-eyed. And I stroked her check for 10 grand on the spot. And I was like, we've really been missing the boat here. We talk about doing all kinds of things for people, and we do, my wife and I and everything. But as a group, all of us as a group, I'd like to see us do something for some people that actually matter and count. And helping the people that we know need help in rural America. And we've struggled to find ways to help, really help. So when Marita presented, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start having a charity every year at FARMCON, and my friends are going to try and do some things and really try to give back. So I'm going to have Marita talk. We're going to talk a little bit about the auction raffle we're going to have, and then we're going to get the first panel up here, and we're going to get this ball rolling. So I love everyone. I appreciate everyone coming out. We're going to have a great show. Marita, if you're here, come on up. So give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Can I walk with it? I think it's on. All right. Good morning. My name is Marita Meach, and Kevin kind of introduced me a little bit. I'm just going to preface this. I'm probably going to cry. I'm pretty passionate and emotional about this foundation. I'm going to give you my why I started this foundation. I grew up on a farm in southeast Kansas, swore I would never live the rest of my life in southeast Kansas, and then I married a man in southeast Kansas. And so he farmed with his dad and his brother, and then in 2013, he and I began our farm, Jim Meach Farms. In November of 2018, we were wrapping up our fall harvest, and we were trying to get things around because both of our kids went to school in West Texas, out around Amarillo, and we were trying to get to Texas to enjoy Thanksgiving with the kids. And on Tuesday before Thanksgiving, a couple days prior to that, he hadn't seemed right. But if you're a woman and you've been around a man for very many years, there's times they never seem right. So anyway, on this particular day, something really wasn't right, and he come in from choring that morning and was going to go to the field, and I said, let's go to the hospital. Something's not right with you. I literally thought he had a diabetic stroke because he'd been a diabetic for years, but he kind of had a drawn lip and couldn't speak and whatever. So we get in the truck, and we head to Kansas City, and I said, well, which hospital you want to go to? And so we're tossing around the ideas of which hospital. I said, well, let's go to the St. Luke's South. So it's probably a heart problem. They can send you downtown. They got a good heart institute there. That's where my mom and dad had gone. And anyway, so we get there, and we go in, and they said, going through the whatevers. And I said, I don't know. Saturday, he was kind of weird. I said, I don't know if he had a stroke or what. And they said, well, if you think he had it on Saturday, it's too late to do the pill or whatever they give you, when you're having a stroke. So anyway, they said, well, we're going to take him for a CT scan or CAT scan or an MR, something. Anyway, come back in a few minutes, and they said, well, we're going to take you downtown by ambulance. I said, well, why is that? I said, I just drove him in here. It's only 20 minutes. I can drive him down there. No, they didn't like that idea. So anyway, they'd found a mass in his brain. So they put him in an ambulance, take him down to St. Luke's on the plaza here in Kansas City, and doing all kinds of stuff. And doctors are coming in and rattling off all these names and things of what they think it's going to be. And they can't do surgery on Thanksgiving Day because he'd taken his aspirin that morning. And so I'm trying to get the kids in Texas to figure out what's going on, how they're going to get home. Anyway, long story short, on our son's 27th birthday, the day after Thanksgiving of 2018, he had an 11-and-a-half-hour brain surgery. We waited 3 to 4 weeks for pathology to come back because he had the rarest form of brain cancer known to man. There's about 120 versions of brain cancer, and they're called grades, not stages. and grade 1 has the most, and grade 4 has only 2 versions, and they're a glioblastoma, which is what most people hear of in brain cancer, and there's a gliosarcoma. If you had 1,000 blastomas, 3 would be how many is the version that my husband had. He was given 5 to 11 months to live. We went home. We just kind of told people he had a brain tumor and we had surgery and we were going to live life. He didn't want people to feel sorry for him. And I don't know, if somebody's coming over to see you and they say, hey, man, I'm sorry you're going through what you're going through. You're looking really good. I mean, I know you got a brain problem, but, you know, that's going to get to your psyche after a bit. So we just didn't tell people. We had a very, very small circle of people that really knew what was going on. And, you know, he went out and we chored and took care of cattle that winter. And as got into haying season, I had to figure out ways of how I was going to get hay put up without people wondering why Jim wasn't out there on the square baler. But anyway, let me back up a little bit. That day that I took him to the doctor, we had 50 acres of beans left in the field, and we were going to be done with harvest. So we were trying to get that done before we went to Texas. We still had cattle at summer pasture. We hadn't got them home yet for the winter. And one of the hardest phone calls I made that morning after we got to the hospital, the next morning at 6 a.m., was to a neighbor that, I don't know, back in our younger days, we were really, really close. And then we had kids, and, you know, you separate a little bit. But anyway, I made a call 6 o'clock in the morning because I knew he'd be out making his feed route. I said, hey, can you help me? He says, yeah, what do you need? I said, Jimmy's in the hospital. I said, I need somebody to go finish cutting them beans up on the corner for me and get my combine put away. So anyway, he did. Him and his son come over, got the harvest in. The kids gathered around on Thanksgiving Day and got the cattle all brought home. And so that all worked out really well. He passed away. This is kind of ironic. I didn't think about it at the time. A few years ago, somebody said something to me. He passed away on Labor Day. He was always going to be one of those farmers. We were in January of 2020. We were going to semi-retire, and he always wanted to be one of those farmers that didn't work till he died. Because what do most farmers do? They work till they die. And so he was kind of looking forward to semi-retiring because we weren't going to fully retire because one of us would have killed the other one. And so we wanted to just be, like I say, go see the kids and stuff in Texas and irritate them a little bit. We had it figured out where we could travel and be home on the farm during Kevin season and travel and then be home during haying season and travel and be home. You know, we kind of had it figured out, had a kid was going to help us. Anyway, so he passed away on Labor Day. And I had him help me plan the funeral. And I'm really, really glad I did. Because one day we were talking about the memorial. I said, well, what do you want the memorial to go to? Brain cancer research? This is a man with a brain tumor. Even though they said they got it all, within 3 weeks at his first MRI, he already had regrowth. Anyway, I said, do you want the memorial to go to brain cancer research? And he says, no. He says, if you do that, you may or may not ever know where the money goes. I was like, all right, well, let's think about it for a few days and see what we can do, see what we can come up with. A few days goes by. I said, hey, what have you thought about? I said, what do you think about I help some of the guys around here? He goes, that's not a bad idea. Well, so I had the memorial money, put it in a bank account. I buried him on Saturday, day before our 35th anniversary. I went to the cornfield on Wednesday. That was in 2019. In March of 24, I was sitting around with some girlfriends of mine, chit-chatting about whatever. So I've been running the farm. I used to always joke and say Jim and I were like Pat and Vanna. Jim was Pat. He spun the wheel and kept shit going. And I was pretty, and I turned the valves. So I kept food on the table, kept him whatever field. But from Labor Day of 2019 to today, I get to be Pat and Vanna. So I was sitting there thinking that one day I need to do something with this money. It's been 5 years. I need to basically either shit or get off the pot, so to speak. So the kids and I got to talking. I said, I need to do something. Let's come up with a name, a vision. We kind of had an idea what we wanted to do. And so I came up with AgriMed Crisis Foundation. It's a agriculture medical crisis. It's to help farmers and ranchers who have an unexpected major medical crisis in their first 30 days. Because the first 30 days are crazy. We had, your money's out. We're all rich. Did you know if you're a farmer and rancher, you're rich? And I don't know where that's at, just because they can drive by, the town folk can drive by and see my cattle and my equipment, but I can't drive the factory in town and see how rich the factory in town is, but I'm rich. But anyway, you have your money allocated for the year, kind of, sort of, don't you? You got this for fertilizer, this for vaccine, this for fuel, and then you have a major medical crisis. His surgery was over $500,000. I can't even remember what the surgeon's bill was, but anyway. The foundation isn't going to pay that kind of money, but we're there in those first 30 days to help somebody who has an unexpected medical crisis. It just helps you breathe. So in 2024, I had the first annual, the inaugural fundraiser, and when I started going around talking to businesses, some of the local businesses, about what I was wanting to do, they were just like, what's Crazy Marita up to now? And I said, I want agriculture-type products, because that's the people that we want to help, so those are the people that are going to come. So we had Milwaukee tools. I just went blank. I've had semi-loads of hay, toys, tools. I've had some clothing donated, a little bit of feed stores donated stuff. And the first year, at our first fundraiser, we raised a little over $20,000. I had one farmer come up to me. He goes, "This is the coolest fundraiser my wife has ever drugged me to," because he had bought a mineral feeder, one of those B&W mineral feeders, and it had a sack of salt and a sack of mineral in it, and he thought that was cool. We've had diesel oil changes for trucks, just basic stuff that we can all go home and use. None of that foo-foo stuff that you have at some of them high-dollar charity deals. Anyway. So then within a matter of a few months, we had our first recipient. He was a farmer, was working on his baler, and had his glove on, thought he had a bearing or something going out, went out to the side door to open up the door, had the chain spinning around, reached in to open the side door, had his gloves on, took 4 fingers and tip of a thumb. So we were able to gift him some money to kind of help with his bills. Our second recipient was a rancher, was out getting cattle in, went to rope a calf. Calf stopped unexpectedly, broke his pelvis. The third one, we've only had 5 recipients in 2 years. The third one was a man last year during harvest. Hadn't been feeling well for about 10 days or so. They thought he had pneumonia or something. They just, how you do. Farmers, you just keep going. You put duct tape on it, right? And he drove himself to the hospital 45 minutes away, actively having a heart attack. So we were able to help him out there last year during harvest. And I saw him one day last winter in town, and this gentleman's not a talker. And he come up to me, and he goes, "Hey, Marita, I want to tell you what I did with that money." I said, "I don't want to know what you did with that money. That was to help you in those first days get through that little crisis right there." He said, man, this one gets me every time. I'm going to start shaking. He goes, "We spent that money on my medicine." I said, "Well, good. That way we was able to keep the grandkids' Christmas pretty much the same as it was going to be." And that was very cool. This summer we had a farmer. He was trying, we had a wet season here last summer. And so some of the guys was in the middle of July trying to finish up with wheat harvest. And Mike was out trying to get done with wheat harvest. Something happened with his combine, so he quit early and come in. And he was eating supper, and he choked. Or no, he did. He went in. Oh crap! When your heart stops. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so he was eating, so he aspirated. So his wife pulls him off the couch. Anyway, she's pretty strong girl. She broke 5 ribs, but he's alive today, and he has a pacemaker. So he ended up getting pneumonia. That the pacemaker fixed his heart problem, but her breaking his ribs because he got pneumonia caused him a lot more. So the money he received, he hired extra help to pay the diesel this fall to get through fall harvest. And then our most recent was a gentleman back in November, and it's like the guy with the baler. You know you're not supposed, like getting out of the truck and not putting it in park. Just lots of little things we're not supposed to do, but we all do, right? Anyway, he was putting on fertilizer ahead of trying to get wheat planted there in November, and he'd been having trouble with fertilizer cart. He got off the tractor, left it running, and he was very, very fortunate that it ripped all of his clothes off. He got caught into the fertilizer cart, but he's got all of his appendages. He's banged up really bad. He's got a T1 or something broke, but it got me when I knew I was doing something right with this deal. I mean, everybody's appreciating it. We've had the recipients come to this our second annual fundraiser and got up and spoke. And when I was going around trying to get people to donate for the fundraiser, and they didn't know what Crazy Marita was doing, and then we had the fundraiser, and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then when they started seeing us post on Facebook and talking about, hey, she helped this guy, or the foundation helped this person, they saw the circle. They saw my vision, because I just wanted to help somebody in my husband's name, because anyway. So I don't know where I was going, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Appreciate it, Marita.
All righty.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. What we're going to do is have a raffle, try and raise some money. Like I said, Andy can't be here. I know Andy, I called him. He's had foot surgery. He was going to be on this next panel. The next panelist can come on up. I'm going to show you. We're going to start this raffle. I called on a bunch of my friends to throw some things in the hopper to make it a little more enticing. I thought maybe we could raise $100,000 at this darn thing, if not more. Nutrien stroked a check for $5,000. They're going to present. Andy, I called Andy on the phone yesterday. I said, hey, if you ain't going to be here, you're going to donate some money. He stroked a check for $5,000. So, I see a lot of people out in that audience. They got a lot more money than I got. And he starts stroking some check. But anyway, look at some of the cool stuff. So the girls are going to go around right now. If you want to get some raffle tickets, $100 a pop, 50-50 drawing at the end. Do what you want with your 50% of the money. I think we can get a huge pot going. The prizes will also be pulled out of the raffle on these. So if you haven't seen them, check them out. $2,000 gift card, Bass Pro, Ag Swag. Jordan's donating $5,000. If anybody, that'd be a great gift. Get hats, get Carhartts, get whatever you want. Conestoga's donating this hunt, this Axis deer hunt with Tom Willis and the guys. Earth Optics, nice Beretta shotgun, pigeon grade shotgun in the mix. Farmland Stock Exchange is giving a Legacy LLC. They're also donating a few other things to set up. Be a great one as well for the people that need to get that set up as we get into this generational wealth building. Organics is giving away 2 fishing trips. That's Jordan and a buddy of his down fishing with Barrett. And Barrett's kids fishing in the ocean down there with Barrett. 2-night stay, the condo at the Ocean Reef Club. It's an awesome place. That would be a great one. Another one, backcountry fishing in Ocean Reef Club. I mean, incredible time. Barrett's 2 sons are guides for some of the most elite fishermen in the U.S. and out in the ocean. So I'm telling you, it's an experience that you'd love. Bob Nimitz and crew, wild boar hunt, geothermal down in Texas, just outside of West Texas. That would be a bang-up trip. Meristem, got a great one in Hilton Head, 5 nights in Hilton Head. So there's some great prizes. Oaken, there's 2 iPads getting given. Quality Ag's giving a duck hunt out at Ben Oak Lodge. Another great hunt. Check it out, spoonbill fishing on the Grand Lakes from Reinsurance Specialties. Another great one. We've got this $3,500 value Nutriscope handheld plant health scanner from Sensing. StoneX is giving away a couple of $1,000 gift cards for any like hats and shirts or things you might want. Summit Ag, UPL, Vortex Razor. You can see. You hit that, you can donate, get in the raffle. Let's have some fun. Let's raise some money for a good cause. We're always trying to find places to send our money, or at least give to people. We know where the money's going. And that's all I'm saying. And if there's moms out there or dads that want to help Marita, she's spreading this across the U.S., so she's going to be coming up with her own, we need people helping her to get this spread around. And if you know people that are in need or assistance or something happens, call Marita and we can get something set up out there. We're going to try to make this thing really, really big. So I hope it can grow. And I think we've got a workhorse behind it. Marita's still running the farm. She can get in there and work. She's got a lot of friends. We got some other farm moms I know who are joining and helping. My wife's helping her, a couple of our farm friends. So yeah, if we can get the first panel up, the girls are going to be walking around with tickets. My wife's got tickets. Michelle, what do you want to say? Yeah, if you paid for a raffle ticket, kind of an honor system here. You know how we do. We're so unorganized on this. We're just trying to do a good cause. If you paid and you didn't get a raffle ticket, get one or grab one of the girls in between, show them, raise your hand. You guys can walk around and they'll help you out. And then we'll get this thing rolling up here on stage and get this thing going. So appreciate it.